What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots and lots of exciting news, lots of great enthusiast news here this week to cover. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it. But before I get into it, I first want to mention I'll be doing my usual weekly live stream this Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So join if you can. It's always fun hanging out, just talking cars and answering your questions. So join if you can. But anyway, getting into the news here this week, the first and potentially the biggest news story. It's been forever since we've been wondering, what's been happening with the new Charger or Challenger. What's the deal with all that? And now we finally have some good concrete evidence here. So it's pretty impressive. So we got these new images here this week that leaked out. Wasn't any credit given as to where they came from, obviously, because whoever took them is probably going to be in big trouble. But as you can see, it looks like we can really tell a lot from these images here. So it takes a lot of the same styling from the concept, looks very, very close to the concept in a lot of ways from, again, at least the components we can see there. And really the only change that I can see, really, at least so far, is that there's a B-pillar there now that wasn't there on the concept. One other concept touch that appears to have remained is the liftback back end, which should give this car an edge over the Mustang in the practicality department. Having a nice big hatch is awesome, as I'm sure any C7 and earlier Corvette owner could tell you. And then possibly the most interesting bit here is what appears to be a transmission tunnel. And so Dodge, I was even on a conference call with the media, with Dodge's CEO, where, people were like, so, like, you're talking about this electric version. What about a gas-powered one? This was, several months ago, maybe even like a year ago. But, their CEO was like, oh, we're just talking about the electric thing today. Maybe there could be a gas thing down the road. But, the Hemi's dead. This platform is dead. Like, the next generation is battery electric. And, that was... they were just very much rejecting the idea of there being a gas-powered version. And now, looks like they're either bluffing or plans changed real fast. I'm inclined to think they were bluffing. There's no possible way this could be just an electric version because of that transmission tunnel. When you look at the STLA large platform, they've already shown off the platform for the electric vehicle that the Charger will supposedly be, at least in some form. It's a skateboard platform. You don't need to have a transmission tunnel like that for something that's going to be on that platform. So there is no way that this is only going to be electric. There will be a gas-powered version alongside, and this is a rumor that we've been hearing from several different sources for the entire year that there's going to be a gas-powered version still. Don't believe all the stuff Dodge is saying about it being EV only, and it turns out that appears to be accurate here. So there's also talk that the Daytona version specifically is going to be the electric one, and that there will be regular Chargers that do obviously have this gas variant that we are clearly seeing here. And so they also, in the shell there, you can see it shows what appears to be either a fuel filler cap or a charge port, or it could be used for both depending on the vehicle that we're talking about. Now, the thing that I think is telling here is that what we're looking at least as far as these bodies, is there is not a plug-in hybrid version, most likely. They could maybe put another port in the front fender, but I think that would be a messier integration than just doing a mirrored port on the other side if you were going to have gas and electric charge ports on the same vehicle. But you can see there's only a port or a tank filler area on just one side of the rear fender there. So at least as far as these ones we're looking at, doesn't seem like there's any plug-in hybrid, most likely. That, again, still, they could put it somewhere else, but I think that's just kind of an assumption I'm making here for now. Anyway, just kind of interesting, that is a new thing that we also didn't see on the electric version. Obviously, I don't know where they had the charge port on that concept, if they had one at all. But, clearly this either is suggesting gas or that they have, decided to put it there and change that from the concept as well. And that front-facing picture also has a piece of paper attached to that body that says tool trial only, or tool trial body. And so if the picture is recent, then that suggests if they're in the tool trial phase, then they are getting the tooling ready to go. They're getting the factory switched over. And the suggestion, which even came from Stellantis themselves, that, a production version of that concept would arrive sometime in 2024 here, seems like they're on track for that. It seems like obviously nothing's going to be coming this year. It's not that close to production if, again, these pictures are recent. But, it means that they should be on track. It's not going to be the end of 2024. Most likely seems like it's going to be ready sometime, maybe my guess would be middle of 2024, which would be great. Again, could be completely different. We'll see how long it takes between tool trial and full full-blown production. But now, as far as what will be powering this Charger, there's obviously been a strong consensus that it'll be Hurricane 6 power. That's most likely, the thing they're going to do. Motor Trend had a sketchy report last year that could still have a V8. I don't buy that. I don't think that's likely. I would love to be wrong, but just doesn't seem super likely. The Hurricane 6 seems to be like the most likely power plant, at least to start here. And speaking of that Hurricane 6 power plant here, just this week there was a conference in Detroit where the head of global propulsion systems for Stellantis said about the Hurricane motor, "We have more power, we just haven't released it yet." So again, already has 500 horsepower, and Automotive News claims that this higher output version will be 520 horsepower, which doesn't seem that much more exciting unless the torque figures goes way up. Otherwise, 20 horsepower, like why bother doing a different version for just that? But we'll wait and see about all that. They also did say at the same conference, though, that the Hurricane motor will also get a downsized, smaller version and turn into a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine as well with a turbo, and that'll arrive eventually as well. And I think that's a good candidate to potentially be a base motor for this Charger, because I think the Hurricane thing might be a little overkill for a base Charger. They did also say at this meeting, though, that the Pentastar V6 is sticking around too and could potentially get electrified, but that motor isn't going anywhere either. So we could still even have carryover V6 power for this new Charger as well, potentially. We'll have to see. But there's also been rumors about, a naturally aspirated V8 combined with electrification to make Hellcat levels of power, or, you could apply that same thing to the Hurricane 6 motor, since that's doing even more power than the V8, to have the Hurricane 6 with electrification and get your 700 horsepower with the gas thing. And then, of course, the electric ones are going to be the ones that will really be fast, and those will be the ones for people that actually want to go fast in a straight line, because those electric ones will just leave these gas-powered ones for dead. But, so anyway, that's pretty much the download here on the Charger now, but I mean, it seems like, we can expect something next year most likely, and it's going to be close to the concept, which is great. We will see about everything else, but so good to finally have some concrete info here on the Charger, or maybe they'll call it the Challenger, who knows. But anyway, just great to get that info. And be sure to also like this video, keep these videos coming, and subscribe to follow along here. I'll be, of course, following the story of the new Charger here as it unfolds here over the course of, the next 12 months or so, most likely. So stay tuned for all that. But another exciting surprise here this week in the sports car and enthusiast realm is that Toyota has partially revealed a new GR sports car concept they'll be revealing next week at the Japan Mobility Show. So it's called the FTSE concept, and anyone familiar with past Toyota concepts is aware that FT stands for Future Toyota, meaning this does foreshadow a production model almost certainly. And so as far as the looks, I mean, it looks awesome from what we can see the back end there. We can also see a very supercar-like interior there with a rectangular steering wheel and a trio of screens. Toyota hasn't said anything about this concept yet other than saying it'll be electric, but hopefully we'll get at least a little more info next week whenever it's fully revealed, and I'll certainly be covering that again next week, and covering hopefully some more details on it. As far as what this previews, thankfully, with Toyota being as awesome as they are with having multiple sports cars and fun things in the pipeline, this could be foreshadowing a number of different things. Most likely not foreshadowing their GT3 racer production car, because that'll be gas powered. This is electric, so I think that's out. There's been rumors of an MR2 revival. This could certainly fit in with that potentially. And we did see another vehicle that was also in yellow that was shown back towards the end of 2021, I believe, with all the other future Toyotas. This could just be that, and we're finally seeing the back end of that for once. So it could be that, and whatever they end up calling that thing. There's also, though, I think the strongest chance, most people are agreeing, is this could be a preview of the next generation Supra. The Supra is approaching the end of its life here. There's no firm date given yet on the end of the Supra, but, it was debuted as a, 2020 model year vehicle, and, here we are going to 2024 model year. We probably only have, a couple more years tops for the Supra. So this is kind of lining up with the timing of, hey, the old one's going to be sunsetting soon. We have, a new one here, at least we're showing in concept form, before a production thing, in a few years possibly. So That seems to make a lot of sense there as well. And also just because, the tires are so wide, it's so aggressive, I think Supra would fit for that, being something high end. I feel like an MR2 would, again, still be a little simpler, a little smaller and more affordable. And that also is why I don't think we're looking at like a next generation F or GR86 or anything like that. Because again, the tires being so wide, being so aggressive, just seems a little overkill for what would be hopefully an affordable, lower power output kind of thing like a GR86. And we just got a new generation of that here, 2 years ago, so I don't think it's that either. So that's why it seems like it's probably Supra, maybe the MR2 thing, but regardless, I'm excited for whatever it is. And it's interesting too that Toyota is showing a sports car concept here, and Subaru is also showing off a two-door thing I just talked about last week. We'll see the full reveal of that next week as well. So maybe, if either BMW doesn't want to do a new Z4 or they don't want to work with Toyota anymore on, the next generation Supra, maybe it's like, hey, we got Subaru's number. Let's give them a call and see if they want to work on this too. And maybe, there's a, either a Subaru's going to get some kind of super variant for themselves or MR2 variant, or, maybe they're going to go in a different direction and make a tour, grand kind of a thing like an SVX revival, like I mentioned last week, or something else entirely. We'll have to wait and see, but maybe those two things are related. Those two concepts, they're coming out at the same time. Seems interesting with the timing there, but we'll have to wait and see about that. But anyway, all exciting possibilities, and excited to report more here next week. And Toyota has also teased another concept here they're showing at this show, and this one's called the FT3E, which looks to be a slick electric crossover. I'll be covering that more next week. We don't have any other info on it though for now, but looks promising for sure. But getting back to the Supra here, we also have a new update about the current generation Supra here this week. So, like I said, even though there's reports of it potentially coming to an end relatively soon, there's also been a lot of reports and rumors about a sportier version coming, potentially a GRMN version to be specific. And just this week, there was what seems like a GRMN version Spied on the Nurburgring, and I can't show you those Spied pictures because I have to pay to show those legally. But I will include the link in the description. You can check it out if you want. There's not much visually that's changed. Looks like there's little canards in the front bumper, which is the same front bumper it seems, and then there's a wing on the back. And not much else. There's forged wheels that are a little more aggressive that are wrapped in Pilot Cup 2 tires, and it looks like it also has some bigger brakes that are hiding behind those new wheels too. But that's pretty much it. So there's not a whole lot to glean from the visuals, but the fact that there is something testing on the Nurburgring and it's sportier, more aggressive than a standard Supra means probably GRMN. And we still have a mystery of what's powering it, because there's been all kinds of reports and rumors that it would just get some version of, the S58, motor from the M2 or M3. And there was even a far-fetched reports claiming it would get the motor from the M3 CSL, which is the very special 543 horsepower motor. I still think there is no chance that BMW is giving up their super special version of that motor for Toyota to use in the Supra. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong, but I don't see that happening. So I wouldn't expect that much horsepower, but anything will be a huge improvement over the 382 horsepower that's claimed. Obviously, we know it's an overperforming motor, but claimed with that, current Supra. Anything in the 400s will be a great improvement, even if it is just the M2 motor with, roughly, 450, 470 horsepower. Still a huge, almost 100 horsepower jump, and it'll be awesome. So we'll have to wait and see, but, great to see that something is brewing there and looks like it's fairly close to production. And there's also some more confirmation of officially this time of more awesomeness coming from Toyota here from the GR department. So Akio Toyota already hinted at the potential, and we've heard in prior months about a new direct automatic transmission that the GR department is working on, saying it's a game changer, supposedly is what Akio said. And now the Toyota Times Magazine is reporting that Japanese racing driver Hiroaki Ishiura, I probably butchered that, I apologize, is also praising this new transmission, saying it locks in from the moment you set off, responding linearly to gas pedal input and allowing you to shave time off your laps without any loss. DAT senses when you're braking fully and downshifts for you to prepare for the next acceleration. It anticipates the actions ahead, just as we normally do when driving, which sounds great. This is new stuff for Toyota, but I mean, this sounds very much like a PDK kind of programming, something that's been around in other cars. But for Toyota, this would be game changing and be a huge improvement for, again, people chasing those fastest lap times. Obviously, there's people that just want the experience, and I'm sure they will continue to offer the manuals as well. But this will be for those people who do want that little bit of extra performance there. And so right now, they're only using it in a motorsport setting. Officially, they've talked about it, but they were testing this out in the GR Yaris. And Akio Toyoda did say he wants to spread the joy of driving to those who can't or won't drive a manual, essentially. And so that means that basically, if you read between the lines, they want to offer all the GR products for everyone. So that would mean the manual only stuff is the GR Yaris internationally, and GR Corolla is manual only here in the States. I would expect those two to get this automatic first. It's being tested with that powertrain, so that's going to be, we'll see an automatic GR Corolla is basically the sure bet in my opinion. Now beyond that, we'll see if this transmission spreads to anything else. I'm sure it will eventually, but for now it seems like that's probably the only thing you should expect it in the meantime here. But sounds really promising. It's great for those who've wanted a GR Corolla but want an automatic, and great to see that. The last exciting teaser here from Toyota this week is a shadowy image of what appears to be a new sedan, most likely the 2025 Camry, considering the Camry is older than the Corolla, which just debuted for the 2020 model year, so not as old as the Camry here. So anyway, it looks really promising with a cool LED light signature there and what looks like flared intakes sculpted into the front bumper, which is so aggressive that some people, and I don't blame them, are speculating that this could be a potential GR Camry that we're looking at even. That might be a little far-fetched. I feel like they would just probably launch with a regular Camry first, but Toyota's been known to do some awesome, crazy things, so, maybe a GR version will be right there at launch. That would be awesome, and, we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, all Toyota's saying so far is that, can you guess what's on the horizon, and that a new dawn is coming. There's no reveal date given for this either. But this came from the North American division, so this isn't something I think that they'll be showing at the Japan Mobility Show. I feel like that's not where this will be, debuting. And also considering I believe they, just said that Japan's not going to be getting the Camry anymore, that means that it's going to be a North American thing. So my bet, if they want to debut it at an auto show, they could do it somewhere else. But if they do it at an auto show, the LA Auto Show is really the only choice the rest of the year. So, and that's about a month away or so here. So, that's a likely candidate, and, they could do something sooner. And of course, I'm sure we'll see other teasers in the meantime. So they might do a partial reveal, even before the LA Auto Show or something, after. We'll have to wait and see, what ends up happening with that. But, very exciting to see, another new Toyota product there on the horizon. Moving on from Toyota here, though, Genesis has some great news also for enthusiasts this week. Like I said, it's just the good news train just keeps on rolling this week. So they announced the 2024 G70. And that alone, the fact that they have just announced it is continuing is huge, because the Stinger is going away here after the 2023 model year. And there was a lot of negative reports about the G70 might go away and how they can't agree on what to do for a next generation. So they're not going to do a next generation of the G70. That still may be true, but at least they're keeping the current one around for a little longer, and not just merely keeping it around, but also giving it the same great improvement they gave the base Stinger right before it went away. So they announced that it's going to be getting the 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder and ditching the 2-liter turbo 4 that it previously had. So that means it has the same 300 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque that the Stinger did in its last 2 years of production there. And that means gains of 48 horsepower and 51 pound-feet of torque. And it's going even further than the base Stinger went, though, because Genesis is also now putting Brembo brakes on all G70s as standard. So, it's even more justifiable now as an entry-level enthusiast vehicle, because you've got the good brakes to go along with the punch of, 300 horsepower. I mean, again, everyone wants, obviously it's going to be more expensive than like a STI or something would be, but everyone wants, an all-wheel drive 300 horsepower, Asian vehicle, and here you go. You're gonna have it with Brembos and everything else. Like I'm super excited about this revised G70. I loved the Stinger with this motor in it. It was so good, and I think really the undervalued, underappreciated version of the Stinger there in those last 2 years. So anyway, you're still down 65 horsepower compared to the 6-cylinder version, but you have the lighter nose of not having the extra 2 cylinders up front there and everything. I think it could really have a lot of potential, and great to see that they've added that in. The exterior is unchanged, but I mean they just refreshed it recently. It still looks great in my opinion, so I don't blame them for not messing with that. On the inside, it does get 2-tone leather options now. There's USB-C ports and touch-sensitive climate controls that we don't have pictures of just yet, so you can use your imagination there. But I'm sure obviously physical controls would probably be better, but I'm sure it's not going to be a deal breaker, hopefully, again, especially considering you get that awesome engine and the Brembos now. So I think that's a fine compromise. There's also now rear side airbags too, which is great from a safety standpoint. There's no updated pricing or release date yet for these, but yeah, I'm just so happy the G70 at least lives on for one more year. That's a win in my book, and not only just lives on, but gets an upgrade. That is fantastic news. So great to hear that. And Porsche and Audi also have some great news for enthusiasts here this week. So Porsche's head of 911 and 718 model lines recently told The Drive in an interview that the manual is safe for now at Porsche, saying manual transmission is always what the customer wants in the 911, so we have been and are working as long as possible to save the manuals. That's absolutely relevant for the 911. That's why we have the 911T with a manual gear shift and now the 911ST with a stick shift. And that's really because customers want a stick shift. And while they can't promise that the manual will stick around forever, with electrification coming eventually and, the electric 718 coming even sooner, because that's already been, photographed testing and all that, they say that they're working on keeping the manual around in the current generation cars for as long as they're around. So for the 718, I mean, that doesn't buy you very much time. I mean, so that's kind of a half-hearted promise, like, hey, we're keeping the manuals around. It's like, of course, we knew you're keeping the manuals around in the 718 because it's only got probably another year to go before the electric one comes. But as far as the 911, that's good to hear because they did kind of say that they're going to try and keep the 911 gas-powered for as long as they possibly can. So it sounds like hopefully the manual will also stick around for that entire duration of gas-powered 911s until, 2030, 2035, whenever they decide they need to do that switch over there. Or the government in Europe and stuff makes them do that. So we'll see. But they also did suggest that once they do get to the electrification stage, that they don't have any plans to do a fake manual, unlike Toyota and Hyundai and some others out there. And so they said, what we want, and that's key. The key for Porsche is to make it authentic. So therefore, I don't know that there's a way for us to have a stick shift in an electrified car. But I'm not sure why they're saying this, because if they truly did want to do a stick shift with a manual car, you can do it. Or with an EV car, you can do it. Like, there's already been multiple people that have hooked up, an electric powertrain, an electric motor to a regular manual transmission. Ford actually played around with this at SEMA a few years ago. There was, I think it was called the Mustang Lithium Concept, an electric Mustang with a manual transmission. There's others out there that are working on similar things. They're in smaller vehicles. It's not in like giant car companies that are working on this stuff. But it is a thing that you can do. It's just less efficient because, the Taycan even has a 2-speed transmission. Potentially, if you really wanted to, you could have someone manually shift from first to second gear. It's only a 1-2 shift. But if you want to give that involvement, you can already do that currently with the current Taycan. So, I still think there's some room there. I'm not sure why they're acting like there isn't. If they want to do something actually authentic and still have a real transmission, they could do that. But we'll see how things progress and develop. Again, with the 911 especially, we're talking about stuff that's a far ways out as far as worrying about this stuff, so it's not worth worrying about for now. But anyway, great to hear that, at least the 911 will continue with a manual, most likely for the rest of its gas-powered life. And so that's great to hear. For Audi's good news here this week, in an interview with the head of Audi design that was posted to their media site, actually, he revealed that all future RS cars will ride on just 2 platforms, the electric PPE platform and then the PPC platform, which stands for Premium Platform Combustion. Which I guess maybe I was unaware of this platform. I didn't realize there was a combustion variant of this platform, unless this is a new development. But this means that the previous general assumption that all future RS models would end up just being electric seems to not be true. Depending on how you look at their prior statements about this stuff. So being on the premium platform suggests that it'll most likely be the expensive RS models that'll survive with gas power, although they have also said that there's potentially a next generation of the RS3 coming as well. And so I'm not sure if this is talking about beyond that or if that is also considered part of the premium combustion platform. I don't know. But it does sound like at least the high-end stuff, the RS6, RS7, RS Q8, all those types of things will continue to live on here, with gas power, most likely carryover motors, because Audi has said they're not developing any kind of new engines, but even just carry that sweet motor over that I've grown to really love in all the RS models that I've reviewed in the past couple of years. That's still, I think, going to be totally fine with everybody. And so we'll just have to see, again, how far this goes with this, platform, this combustion platform, because Audi previously said that their final combustion cars would debut in 2025. But there's a chance that's been pushed back now because of Euro 7 again. That whole thing was supposed to set in 2025. That's since been thrown out. I talked about that a few weeks ago. So now maybe that's why Audi's like, okay, well, now we have no rules basically for combustion stuff that are new. It's the same stuff as before, but, no stricter rules until the 2035 deadline for EVs. So I think Audi might be planning to switch over, earlier than that, but it's still like, until they decide to switch over, they can do whatever they want gas-wise. So I think that might be part of why they're all of a sudden like, hey, let's just keep carrying everything over and let the good times keep on rolling here for a few more years. So, we will see again how this develops, and I feel like those prior comments can probably be thrown out now that the Euro 7 stuff's been thrown out, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, it sounds like, as far as the newest stuff goes, they're planning on having gas-powered RS models. That's great news for enthusiasts as well, and so great to hear that. Honda also this week has some good news here. They've finally given us a few more details about the Civic Hybrid that I know many of you have actually been asking about, and a lot of people have been interested in a Civic Hybrid, and it's been MIA this whole time. So this week they've confirmed that it will arrive for the 2025 model year, and production will begin sometime in 2024. It'll largely mirror the European versions, it seems, with Honda saying it'll be available in both sedan and hatchback body styles, and that it'll use the same hybrid powertrain found in the Accord and CR-V, meaning a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder on the Atkinson cycle and 2 electric motors. In Europe, for the Civic, it does 181 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque. But since it's the same stuff here in America, what we get with the Accord and the CR-V is 204 horsepower and 247 pound-feet of torque. So if they wanted to make the Civic Hybrid a little spicier here, you could, just carry that stuff over, and you got some punch there. I mean, that would then give you more horsepower than the SI, way more torque than the SI, and be a really nice sporty option. Obviously, it seems like it's only automatic, so you'd miss out on that. But again, a great option for people who want an automatic SI in a way. You have similar levels of power in a Civic with an automatic here, which again, some people might not love the fact that it'd be hooked up to a CVT with the hybrid or the direct drive kind of thing that they do and be the hybrid. But I think this could be a really nice middle ground, especially for people who want a faster hatchback that don't get the fun of the SI and don't want to go up to an Integra or a Type R or something like that. You have kind of a nice middle ground here with 247 pound-feet of torque and a Civic hatch would be great. And so I think that could be a lot of fun. And so we will see. But I'm inclined to believe they will try and maybe make it a little more exciting. I know they might not love the idea of the hybrid kind of sitting slightly higher in the hierarchy than the SI, but they did say they want the hybrid to account for 40% of all Civic sales once it's available. And I mean, you're talking about almost half of all Civics being these hybrids. So I think they're either going to, try and keep the price down really low and maybe do a detuned version of this, or make it really exciting, market it as a new performance option for people who don't want the SI for whatever reason, and maybe try and boost sales that way. We'll see, but I'm excited for this. I think it has a lot of promise there. And, will be even just if they carry over just the regular European powertrain, you're still going to get an extra 55 more pound-feet of torque over the current Sport Touring hatch. That'll be a great upgrade on its own, even if they don't try and do anything crazier. So I'm all very excited for all this stuff, and great to hear that, and can't wait for that to get here next year. One vehicle that also we now have to wait for it to arrive next year, was supposed to come by the end of this year, is the Mazda CX-70. So Mazda's North American CEO just told Automotive News this week that it now won't launch until 2024 instead of the late 2023 launch, like I said, that they were originally planning. He also confirmed what we already assumed, and that's that it'll get an electrified option. I'm not even sure why he bothered mentioning that, but it'll get the same powertrains as the CX-90 almost certainly, and so That means you'll have the plug-in hybrid that the CX-90 gets. But anyway, beyond the CX-70, he also revealed that an all-electric Mazda will arrive in the North American market by 2025. And he said it'll also interestingly use the name of an existing product, which really throws a wrench in the expectations there. So we're not talking about some kind of MX-30 or anything like that, I don't think. But what it ends up being will be interesting, unless he is referring to the MX-30, even though that's technically, I think, already dead. But, so what name do they take? Do you have an electric variant of something? I think that's the safer bet, instead of replacing one of their main models with an EV. Like the CX-5 is the oldest one that would most likely be up for a new version for sure by 2025. But, I highly doubt they're going to completely cannibalize all their CX-5 sales by being like, you have to get an electric one if you want a CX-5. There's no way they're going to do that. So I'm thinking maybe an electric version alongside a gas-powered CX-5 potentially, or they do some type of other vehicle with a new generation that has an electric version. We'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to hear that, and we will stay tuned for that. It seems like in 2025, but great to kind of get an update there finally on what's going on here with the CX-70. Another interesting bit of news here this week is about the Mercedes G-Wagon. So just a few weeks ago, I covered the news that the current G-Wagon will end production in the first quarter of 2024 to make room for a new electrified version, as well as the all-electric EQG that's coming next year. But now another piece of the puzzle has fallen into place thanks to some info that I got personally from my Mercedes dealer contact. And so I haven't seen this report anywhere else. So I'll be interested to see, if anyone else has heard similar. But the contact told me that the regular G550 is going to drop its V8 for this new generation version and go down to the 6-cylinder turbo engine instead, and that the new G63 will be the E-Performance variant, likely meaning a plug-in hybrid V8 setup, unless they go out on a limb and do the plug-in hybrid 4-cylinder from the C63, but I doubt it. I think they're going to probably, like all the other expensive stuff, use the twin-turbo V8 with the E-Hybrid thing, which means a massive amount of power there in a gas-powered G-Wagon still for those who want that. Now, my source wasn't able to, they weren't sure whether a regular G63 was also going to be on the menu or not. But, with all the other new rollouts recently, it seems like most of those had only done the E-Performance variant and not a regular 63 version for the most part, aside from like the SL maybe and, one or two others. So I feel like, the chances are there won't be a regular G63, but we'll have to wait and see about that. And so, but either way, both are going to be really solid, performers. Even with that turbo 6-cylinder, it'll be a great option for those who just want the look and don't need to have a gas-guzzling V8. This will be, really, really nice. And it's interesting because, just a few weeks back, I was talking about how Mercedes engineers were saying that they were having these huge improvements in fuel economy, and they were really putting a lot of that credit on the fact that they improved the aerodynamics so much. Which I was like, man, they're talking about huge fuel economy gains from just aerodynamics on a G-Wagon that still looks really boxy. Like, I'm not sure about that. I think maybe they were giving too much credit to the aerodynamics. I think the bigger improvement to your efficiency is the fact that you're downsizing to a 6-cylinder and then going to a plug-in hybrid for your performance version. Those two things are going to help efficiency a lot, probably more than, smoothing over the aerodynamics a little bit. But we'll have to wait and see once the full reveal comes. But, anyway, thanks to my dealer source there for that scoop, and let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. We also have Infiniti here. They've teased a new concept that they'll be revealing next week called the Vision Qe. And since it's not called the QXE, my guess is this will preview the next electric sedan that Infiniti is supposedly working on, according to info we previously got a few months back from a dealer convention. So it looks very aerodynamic and swoopy, and that's all we know so far. So hopefully we'll have more info next week on that concept. Speaking of concepts, though, oh boy, Nissan has shown off two more far-out unrealistic concepts here that they'll be showing at the Japan Mobility Show next week. One is called the Hyperpunk, with very odd styling that they say is inspired by origami, and the other one is the Hyper Tourer, which is this wild-looking van with all kinds of unrealistic tech. Like they say, it has the ability supposedly to monitor your brainwaves in order to adjust the music and the ambient lighting. If they had tech to do that, there'd be much better uses for that than just having a nicer experience in your car. But it just, this is now the fourth one of these concepts I think we've seen in the past, 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm like, what is the point of these concepts? Especially from a company like Nissan that has no money, that's making all these cuts, that's far from at the top of their game right now as far as sales, market share, whatever. even like Toyota's got like a couple concepts, across multiple brands. And then you have Nissan, who doesn't have a lot of money, putting out all these unrealistic concepts for no reason with all this, far-fetched stuff. Like it's almost like Nissan's trying to go bankrupt. Like instead of putting these millions of dollars that it takes to do multiple concepts for no reason, instead of, all that money they could be spending on other things for larger improvements. And it's just like, it's another head-scratching thing from Nissan. As if any of you have been following my coverage of the weekly updates or my live streams, you'll know that I'm like, what is Nissan doing? They're botching a bunch of their new product launches with the Z and the Z Nismo and pricing everything terribly and not packaging things well and everything else. And then they're blowing millions of dollars on these concepts to what? Get a crowd at a car show? Like, what is the point of this? It's just like bizarre to me. But anyway, I'm sure they have their reasons, and I guess these will make fun showpieces and whatever, Nissan. But for some actual production car news from Nissan here, they've treated their number one seller, the number one bread and butter thing in the lineup that literally keeps the lights on at the company, the Rogue. They've given it a slight refresh. Like they couldn't be bothered to spend a few bucks to actually like give a heavier refresh to the Rogue, and instead they're blowing millions on concepts. But the actual thing that makes them money, they're spending hardly any money on here. So here we are, 2024 Rogue refresh this week. On the outside, it gets some light tweaks to the grille, the bumpers, and supposedly the taillights are slightly new, even though they look the same to me. There's not even new headlights on this refreshed Rogue that's been around since, again, I believe 2020. So yes, the interior also doesn't hardly get any changes aside from if you get an SL or higher trim, you can now get a 12.3-inch touchscreen where the 9-inch touchscreen used to be. This is the same screen that debuted in the Altima. It's been in also the Aria. But even if you go for a base or an SV trim, you still carry on with the same 8-inch screen as last year. They couldn't even be bothered to give the 9-inch screen to those lower trims. They're still stuck with the same 8-inch screen as before. And all Rogues now do get USB-C jacks as well. Woohoo! But everything else is the same. The turbo 3-cylinder motor that is now mandatory in the Rogues carries over as well. Everything's the same. But it's just like, I know enthusiasts, performance vehicles and stuff like that also aren't a great moneymaker, but like, it would be fun to see them do the VC turbo motor from the Altima, put that in the Rogue with all-wheel drive and have, a 250 horsepower Rogue that'd actually be kind of fun and sporty, give it, Nismo badges if you want or whatever. I mean, there's, they're like, oh, we can't afford to do Nismo stuff or we can't afford to do this, that, and the other, but then they're blowing millions on these concepts. It's like, can you actually not afford to do it? Or is this just a choice for some odd reason? It just, yeah. Anyway, I won't rant about Nissan anymore. But anyway, there's the 2024 Rogue. It's supposed to be available in early 2024 for the few people out there that'll be on the edge of their seat for it. Anyway, moving on here, there's two huge dominoes that fell this week in the death of the CCS port for EVs. So BMW and Toyota both announced that they'll adopt the Tesla NACS charge port here starting in 2025, just like everybody else. And so the Toyota announcement also includes Lexus, by the way, and says that it will incorporate the NACS ports into certain Toyota and Lexus BEVs starting in 2025, including the all-new 3-row battery electric Toyota SUV that'll be assembled at the Toyota Motoring Manufacturing Kentucky facility. So while this vehicle was already announced, I think, all those details we already knew along with that timeline, but this is just confirmation that, again, there is an electric 3-row Toyota SUV coming here in 2025, which is cool to get that confirmation as well. And they also added that existing EV owners will be able to get an adapter in 2025 as well to get access to that Tesla charging network. And Toyota, I mean, they're, a huge company, so it's a really big deal that they have also made this switch here. And anyway, BMW, they also, again, had the same announcement, but their announcement also includes Mini and Rolls-Royce, so company-wide, they're switching to NACS there. And they clarified that it, too, will begin the switch in 2025 and will work to provide a smooth transition in early 2025 for access to the Tesla charging network. So with those two announcements, I believe Volkswagen Group is the last one standing with CES. With CCS, I should say. So as far as, are they going to be the holdout? They kind of have an interesting position now because, like, they could kind of have CCS all to themselves and kind of pull a reverse Tesla and be like, aha, well, now we have CCS all for ourselves. And all the other charging networks are still supporting CCS going forward, it's just they wouldn't have access to the Tesla network unless you get an adapter, which Volkswagen could just sell an adapter and still carry on with CCS and then custom tailor CCS for what they want to do with it. Could be interesting. Or they may just, join the bandwagon, hop with everyone else, and agree that the NACS standard is the way to go forward. And switch over soon too. We will have to wait and see how that plays out. But now that they're kind of the last ones, it puts them into a different position than everybody else. So we will see how that plays out. But anyway, interesting to hear that. And while all the hype is around the Tesla supercharging network, with all these switchovers and stuff, that's the big thing is how we switch to NACS and now we get access to 12,000 superchargers, which is certainly a huge deal. But the other charging companies are not going to be left to just, wither away, with them starting their switchover well before 2025 here, with ChargePoint this week specifically announcing that they've already started to ship NACS cable upgrade kits to their existing chargers, and those should be installed by like November, they're saying, meaning that, well, for one, it's great for Tesla owners that are going to start getting overrun with a bunch of random people at their supercharging networks. Now they can go at least to charge points and know that they're going to have their connector there and be able to get a charge there if they don't have any luck at the other chargers. But this also means that, they were going to be ready a year ahead of time for all these coming NACS port vehicles in 2025 and beyond. And they'll be ready, which is great, because a lot of people are worried about this charging network and everything, it's not ready, it's not good, it's not coming out fast enough. And they're way ahead of schedule here, putting the NACS ports there just basically for Tesla people for all of 2024 until everyone else hops on the bandwagon in 2025. But great that they're ahead of the ball here, finally, and hopefully we'll keep on rolling out more chargers as well. But great to hear that. And lastly, though, I want to thank all of you that are members of the Maran Motoring Club. So we did have 2 new members that were able to join this past week, thanks to the very generous membership gifts given by Kyle and MDKN in the live stream here this past week. So I want to thank both of you for your tremendous generosity. I really appreciate it. And not only just for those 2 members that were able to join, but also for the 8 other people that were able to rejoin. Thanks for that generosity. So thanks so much, Kyle and MDKN. I really appreciate it. But I also want to give a big welcome here to Brian P. and Thomas Costio, the new members that were able to join. I hope you're all enjoying the perks there so far, and I look forward to hopefully chatting with more of you here on the live stream that we'll be doing here on Sunday if you can make it. But for anyone else though who would like to join and get that priority answering in the live stream, as well as all the other perks that come with being a member, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and also a link in the description. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Please, again, leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming and stay up to date on all the latest automotive news here. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.